This PowerPoint will give you some of the common writing issues in academic writing and help you to understand why you shouldn't do them. Before we start, though, the one thing that you always need to remember is, regardless of what you see in this presentation, you should always listen to your professor. So if the professor gives you rules or regulations that are different from what you see in this presentation, you should always follow those in lieu of what you see here. So what is good writing? Well, the best writers are good readers. If you're not a reader, your writing will never improve. So you need to get in the habit of reading every day, even if it's just the newspaper. Text messages and little blips on the internet don't count. You need sustained reading in order to improve your writing, your sense of vocabulary, and your syntax. Always consider your audience, who you're writing for. Are you writing for peers in your field? Are you writing for classmates? Are you writing for the general public? That will always adjust the way that you write. Good writing and critical thinking are intimately connected. You'll discover this as your writing improves, your thinking will also improve. Be concise, be concrete, be clear, and the ways to do this are to prepare, to be precise, and always to proofread. Academic writing is quite different from creative writing or journalistic writing. We don't write the way that we speak. We don't speak the way that we write. And if you think about that for a second, we write in complete sentences and paragraphs. We don't speak that way. We speak in fragments. We speak in empty thoughts. We speak in half thoughts. We can't write that way. So these are two different modes of communication, writing and speaking. Don't use slang. Avoid cliche at all costs. Don't expect the reader to know what you mean if you haven't said it in the writing. That's all you've got are the words. If you can't convey it in the words, the reader is never going to understand what your meaning is. Don't write in fragments. Always use complete sentences. Always use what's called standard written English. You might see this as SWE. Academic writing is not creative writing, but it can be creative. We are not looking to strip your writing of all of its creativity. It does not need to be boring. Habits to avoid in academic writing include second person you or the use of any personal pronouns. So your writing should not include statements like, you can go to the store and buy 4 apples. There is no you, don't speak to the reader. Inconsistent person. Example of this, the dogs chewed his bone. This should be the dogs chewed their bones. Inconsistent verb tense. Example, the academic life seems to suit Liz, who thrived on rigorous curriculum. Seems and thrived are in two different verb tenses. It makes the sentence unclear. Avoid abbreviations. Don't use etc. or a lot. etc. for etc. is Latin. It actually means and so on. Usually if you use that, it means that you're either too disinterested or bored to give the reader the full story, so why should the reader continue? And a lot, which is always spelled as 2 words, really means nothing. How much money do you have? A lot. Pronoun antecedent agreement and reference. Pronouns take the place of nouns, he, she, it, they, I, and you. The antecedent is the word to which the pronoun refers. So antecedents and reference need to agree in number and gender. In the example here, President Lincoln delivered his Gettysburg Address in 1863. President Lincoln is the antecedent, his is the referent. It has to agree in number, it is singular, and gender, both are masculine. Mechanical rules. Numbers. Never begin a sentence with a number. Spell it out. 26. All numbers below 100 should be spelled out. Those above 100 are optional, but you should be consistent. If you're going to spell it out all the time, spell it out all the time. If you're not, don't do it at all. Unnecessary repetition. These are phrases which are redundant. The definition of one word is found in the other. A round circle. Circles are round. Refer back. Referring means to look back. An eyewitness present at the scene. Eyewitnesses are those who are present at the scene. The whole entire world. Whole and entire. Redundant. Call now for your free gift. When is the last time you paid for a gift? Gifts can't be free. merged together, the words mean the same. Again, this is redundant. Precise estimate is a contradiction. Estimates can't be precise by definition. That's what makes them estimates. Words and phrases to avoid. You avoid using contractions in formal writing. It's too slangy and too informal. It's fine for journal writing and even creative writing, but in formal writing we try to avoid the use of contractions. There are no such words as their self, his self, all right. Write instead themselves, himself, and all right, which is 2 words. Do not capitalize subjects like biology, math, science, and history. But do use who when you're referring to people, and that when you're referring to things. Always use a dictionary. Very important to have a good dictionary. Parts of speech, most of this is a review for you from elementary school. The definitions for nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections, and you can look at all of these more carefully on your own time. For further consultation, though, you should always have a good and current grammar handbook. The Little Seagull Handbook, which is pictured here, is the one that we're currently using. It's quite affordable and quite usable. You also need to have the current edition of your discipline's style manual. Find out what style your discipline uses, whether it's APA, AMA, Chicago, MLA, there are a myriad of others, and make sure that you have the current edition. Don't assume, though, that once you buy the current edition, you'll never have to buy it again. When they come out with a new edition, there are always significant changes, some of them not so significant, but still important, that you need to abide by if you're going to keep with the style in your discipline. Always have a good dictionary. Mentioned this before. The Merriam-Webster Pocket Dictionary, the paperback dictionary on the screen here, sells for $7, $8, $9. Do not rely on dictionary.com. Use a good English dictionary. It will be very helpful in the long run. For style manuals, Strunk and White's The Elements of Style has always been a go-to for people. But William Strunk was born in 1869, and the first edition of this book was published almost 100 years ago. Style has changed a little bit since then. You wouldn't dress the way that you did in 1918 today, so you probably should look at something that's more recent about style. Steven Pinker's new book called The Sense of Style has become sort of a go-to book. It's getting a lot of praise. It's very readable. It's actually a fun read. Pinker is a psycholinguist who's written many, many books. This is his first foray into this area, and it's gotten very good reviews. Highly recommended. Let's go through GROW. These are the golden rules of writing, as I call them. And again, if your professor has different rules, follow those. But 12-point Times New Roman font is the standard, and so are 1-inch margins, double spacing, and lattes with foam. If you use a lot of other fancy fonts that you found on the computer, it can not only make it difficult to read, it can also make your meaning unclear. Always use the spell check, but don't rely on it. Think of the spell check like the seatbelts in your car. You assume they work, but that doesn't mean you're going to drive recklessly through intersections. Ignore the grammar check. In most cases, it's going to make you sound like a computer, or worse, Bill Gates. I actually suggest that you turn off the grammar check. Titles are important. Give your paper a title. There's a good reason why there aren't 7 billion people walking around all named Baby. Italicize book and journal titles. Underlining was all we had with typewriters, but italics have replaced underlining. Journal articles and essays get quotation marks. Watch your overuse of descriptor words. Examples: a huge portion of the population. She was very cruel. There's a reason why one cannot be a little pregnant. Some things are absolutes. Commas are not periods. That's why they're on 2 different keys on the keyboard. And semicolons are not commas. Semicolons carry the weight of a period, so if you do not have 2 complete sentences on either side, a semicolon is the wrong punctuation. If semicolons really baffle you, break the key off your keyboard and forget them. You can never use them again and be quite happy and live a long life. Let's end apostrophe abuse in our lifetime. Apostrophes are important. We use them for contractions and to show possession. Apostrophes never make words plural, especially if you're selling apples and oranges. Sentences are made up of words. Paragraphs are by definition made up of several sentences, so you cannot have a one-sentence paragraph unless you're writing for the New York Times or some other journalistic endeavor where one-sentence paragraphs are acceptable. Proofread your work carefully several times. You never know when there's typos or errors. Try reading your work aloud. That's always very helpful. Or backwards in order to catch the slips. Drafts are vital. Sometimes they don't work, but don't fear failure. 27 publishers rejected Dr. Seuss's first book before it was finally accepted. Carrie, Stephen King's first book, was rejected by 30 publishers before he threw it in the trash. His wife pulled it out and encouraged him to resubmit it. If you still doubt the value of failure, see J.K. Rowling's 2008 TED Talk, The Fringe Benefits of Failure. She wrote some books about some kid wizard. And then finally, before you can fly, you need to get out on the ledge. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Editing, proofreading, deleting, all of those are options and easily done now in the computer age. Take a chance and you'll be quite pleased with the results.